What's up, everybody? It's Charles. In this video, we are talking about that's right, the Pops and Crackles tune, and the difference between a regular tune and the Pops and Crackle ones that so many people absolutely love. What causes that crackle and pop is actually very similar to what causes the DSG noises on shifts. It's typically a tiny bit of unburnt fuel that's touching the exhaust and then igniting. And we get the benefit of hearing that coming out of the tailpipe. So my Golf R is stage 2, and initially I had just the base stage 2 file on it, which made very little noise. The only extra noise that the car produced was due to the high flow downpipe, and actually even more so due to the air intake. There was really no crackles or no pops, although it did make really nice DSG noises. So I decided, you know what, why not put the Crackle tune on and see what it sounds like? And I have to say, it delivers on what it's promising. So how do we achieve these crackles or these pops, or a lot of OEs call it a burble? There are actually cars that are tuned this way from the factory to give you that little bit of extra burbly noise. Now, despite what I think is sort of a mad science to tuning these cars, to get these crackles and these pops or the burbles is actually not terribly challenging. Now you'll notice that you really only hear this when you're letting off the throttle. I actually found that if you sort of feather off the throttle, it actually makes even more pops and crackles than it does if you just straight let off the throttle. In fact, I found the prime RPM is about 4,200 RPM to lift your foot off slowly, and it'll make an extra crackly noise. Now the car from the factory will basically cut fuel on deceleration. This is an emissions thing and a fuel economy thing. When we tune the car, we're doing a couple of things. We're delaying that ignition timing. We're retarding that ignition timing so the spark plug is firing later, and we're also injecting fuel then. So rather than cutting fuel, we're given just a little bloop of fuel that's hitting the exhaust, that's causing that combustion. That combustion may even be happening with the exhaust valve slightly open, and then we get... Now, to get the best crackles and pops, in addition to a tune, changing components of the exhaust will also help that. A completely gutted catalytic converter, so there's actually no catalyst material inside, just a straight pipe or a test pipe, will give you even more. Modifying the exhaust will give you even more. In fact, I bet you if you straight pipe this thing, it'd probably crack and pop all on its own. But not having a catalytic converter is one of the main pieces that will increase your cracks and pops. Now, when we look at the tune with the crackle and pop and without, the tune is essentially the same other than on D-cell. So that makes me ask the question, does this give you any performance advantage at all? Well, it actually doesn't. It's very important, this is not an anti-lag system. This is basically a novelty part of a tune. So from a vehicle standpoint, if you have a stage 1 pop and crackle tune and a regular stage 1 tune, the tunes are gonna be the same. You're really not gonna get any more performance advantage out of the car going with the one that makes the extra noise. Now, what about potential issues from going with a cracks and pop and bang tune? Well, it depends really on how aggressive the pops are on that tune. Either way, you are going to be using more fuel than you would with a factory tune. Of course, we're stage 2, so how much fuel I'm using isn't the biggest, most important thing of this vehicle, but that is something you may want to consider. With combustion happening potentially with the exhaust valve slightly open, this does open us up to potential engine or turbocharger issues. Now, I couldn't find very many cases of a pop and crack tune causing a failure of a catalytic converter or engine damage or turbo damage, but if it's aggressive enough, that could possibly be an issue. My biggest concern would actually be damage to the catalytic converter, because we do have more heat at that moment of pops and crackle, because we do have more fuel coming out, potentially unburnt fuel, touching the exhaust and igniting right there at the catalytic converter. The more aggressive, the more you're gonna have to worry about those things. We also wanna consider that extra pressure, that extra heat, may result in damage to the muffler. That's kind of a long shot because our muffler's way down there. However, if you are shooting flames out of the exhaust, the potential for muffler damage is considerably higher. So to sum it up, retarded ignition timing, extra fuel, high flow or no catalytic converter leads to depending on how how aggressive it is will depend on whether you have damage or not. Now, a lot of you may think, Charles, this is cool for like 4 seconds and then I'm over it. I did learn that if you drive in comfort mode, which is where I typically drive the car, it doesn't really make any extra noise. It's not until you get into race mode where those pops and bangs do get pretty aggressive. So what do you guys think? Pops and bangs, are they cool when you add them afterwards? Are they only cool from the factory? Are they never cool? Are they cool in that rare moment like the R32 where it just kind of does it? Or is it like the Sound Actor and it's just fake? And while it doesn't give you really any performance gain, do you think it feels cool? Is it something that like the butt dyno thinks it's really awesome? I will leave that up to you. For me, I'm gonna probably put it back to the base stage 2 file.